From the Schmoes Know Network studios in Los Angeles, California, it's time for DC Movie News. And here are your hosts, Jonny Loquasto, Adam Gertler, and our real-life Wonder Woman, Roxy Striar.
Hello, Schmoville, and welcome at long last to DC Movie News. I'm Adam Gertler.
I'm the real live Wonder Woman, Roxy Striar.
And I'm Jonny Loquasto, definitely not a superhero.
And we can finally are so happy to bring this show to you because guess what? There's finally DC movies to talk about.
Bam!
Damn right.
I know we were supposed to start this like a month ago, but I have to. That's my fault.
Yes, it is. You want to tell everybody what you were doing, why you couldn't be here?
I'm sorry, guys. I was out of the country. I was doing a comedy tour for the troops in the Middle East and Africa. So I mean, what am I gonna do?
Yeah,
You can't
exactly.
start that with "I'm sorry."
I apologize
You're
for
not sorry.
the show starting in November.
Whatever problems you might have with Johnny, just remember he worked for the troops.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And I'm going back at some point.
All right, so I figured let's just start off with introducing ourselves and meeting all you guys. Schmoville, we're so excited to be here for you. Let's just talk about how we all got here, because it's kind of like a random collection of people. I host FX Movie Download on FX on Friday nights. We show movies. I've also been doing stuff on Food Network. So I do anything related to geeky stuff, comic books, movies, or food, because those are the things that I like. And I was really happy to meet Christian Harloff at Comic-Con this year, just to kind of just let him know what a fan I was of the shows and AMC and all that stuff. And then, yeah, next thing you know, here we are.
Boom.
So how'd you get here?
Okay, so I work at AfterBuzz. I'm a host and a producer over there, and so I met everybody at Schmoes, and they asked me to come on the Schmoes Know Movie Show. Their fans were the most incredible fans of all time.
They
That's you
love
guys.
you.
They're unbelievable.
They
You guys are
love them.
unbelievable. You're the best
Some Roxy.
ever. You're the best ever. You guys come out really strong for me, so that's been amazing. Really, I sucked so bad, but because you guys made up for me, then you got, they showed their love, and they were like, no, you got to bring her back. You really tied their hands. They had no
Yeah.
choice, so they did have to kind of put me on the show. So here I am. That's how I got here.
Awesome. And Johnny, J. Loquasto, the missing link.
This goes back a long ways. I've been friends with Harloff and Ellis since before they were the Schmoes. They were like my first two comedy friends in Los Angeles. We all did, back when Harloff did stand-up. I don't even know what year that was. It was a while ago, though. And so we've been really good friends ever since, and I've popped in periodically on the Schmoes over the years, but they thought that the three of us would be a great fit. And I got to say, too, the Schmoes fans are the greatest group of fans, and I think it stems back to Mark and Christian, not to kiss their ass, but they're just really great dudes.
They don't mind if you kiss a little bit.
Right.
So
They're okay.
this is very much in the purest sense an arranged marriage, but I really believe in this arranged marriage. I think it's going to work. Primarily what I think we're going to be talking about is, of course, the new Warner Brothers movie news. It's right there in the title, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to occasionally kick it back to some of the old school DC movies. There have been many, many great ones over the years. We might talk about comic books on occasion as they refer to the films. You see I got a few of them up here. And then, of course, DC crushes it in all things TV and animation, so that might come up as well.
Oh, yeah.
But the primary focus, and at least on today, this is our first episode, we have a major slate to cover, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So should we jump in and just start talking about the DC movie slate?
I mean, look, the place is decorated. We might as well just get to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
With all this amazing stuff that you brought in,
This
by the
looks
way.
good. I want to see how many bags you look like a mom on Christmas.
Well, honestly, the reason why I know it looks a little Batman heavy here, but like Batman has always been my favorite character, and my mom will always buy me Batman tchotchkes and things because she thinks I'm still 12.
Is this a coin bank?
That is a coin bank.
Can we just say, though, I did participate in bringing stuff. I did bring in my very own thing, so I think that I'm cool, too.
You did, Harley Quinn, and
yeah.
that's very relevant possibly to the Suicide
pretty
Suicide
awesome.
Squad film we're going to be talking about.
I didn't bring anything. I just
So
wore
let's,
a black
did we
and
get
blue
the
suit.
You brought
slate up
yourself.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get it.
All right. So here we have, dun-da-dum! We have enough fodder for podcasts for the next 26 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So this is...
It looks good up there.
It does look great. I mean, this is what's happening now. The CEO of Warner Brothers, Kevin Tsuchihara, recently announced this ambitious movie slate. It had been suspected for a long time that DC was going to come out with a slate or something similar to like this, and we finally got the official word. Obviously, we know about Batman v Superman, which is the first one that we're getting now in 2016, but a lot of these are surprises. You have things like Suicide Squad, which people are like, what the heck is that? Wonder Woman, which people have been asking for a long time. They recently tried to reboot the TV show. That didn't work out so
I hear
well.
that you might have a Wonder Woman shirt that you might bless us with at some point.
I might. I didn't want to open up with the Wonder Woman shirt because I want people to know that I am very progressive, but I figured I'd be a little subtle and go Nightwing.
And
today.
because the shirt is a schmedium size.
It is definitely a schmedium. Then we got Justice League 2017.
Right.
You got a Flash movie.
Woo!
First time you're going to see
That's my
Flash
jam.
on the big screen ever.
Word.
Aquaman. Not since the fake James Cameron Entourage project has an Aquaman movie been taken seriously.
I'm
Great show.
stoked for that one. I know people. No, we have no idea which way it's going to go.
We don't.
But growing up as a fat swimmer, I like Aquaman.
Yeah,
so I'm excited
could
for
you
that
always
one.
hold your breath a long time?
No, hell no.
that
I
a
was
PH?
160 pounds when I was 11. I couldn't hold anything,
Also,
but
that's
barely
a capital
myself.
F fat, not PH fat. That's
No, I
not
was
like a hip
definitely fat in capital letters.
Okay.
I was
cool.
kind of a chubby kid too. The only race I could ever win was the underwater for time. For distance, I would just refuse to
impressive.
get up. That's all I could do. Not a lot of athleticism here. Shazam happening in 2019. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Then we'll talk about this little surprise, Justice League Part 2. We have Cyborg, which is very exciting, and Green Lantern not happening till 2020. By that time, people will have long forgotten about the Ryan Reynolds debacle.
I don't even want to think about how old I'm going to be when Cyborg comes out. That's just disturbing.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Oh, come on. You'll be
Guys,
fine.
the first thing I'd like to talk about is just a quick, I don't want to do a review or anything, but let's talk a little bit about what launched this new universe.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny, you and I had a little party last night.
You made stew. Great chef.
I made stew, that's right. Always, anytime you're partying with me, there will be food, there will be sausage, barbecue, smoked meats, things like that.
I wasn't invited.
No, you
My
were
invite was
very
lost
much
in the mail.
invited.
First off, you can't mention sausage and say Roxy wasn't invited. That's just a weird
It was kind
Man
of
of
a sausage
Steel
party.
party. All right, it was.
So we watched Man of Steel last night just to kind of get us back on the same page. And I got to tell you, for me personally, this was a film that I anticipated for 2 solid years. I should tell you, I'm a big comic book fan. I've been collecting comics since I'm 8 years old. I'm 37 now. That's a lot of issues I have in my parents' garage, okay?
Issues?
A lot of issues.
Comic book issues.
Comic book issues.
And
all
some
kinds
other,
of issues.
some other issues
We don't
are
have
hanging
enough
out
time
there,
for
too.
Very
it.
well.
Yeah.
So I'm also, that thing that can happen sometime when you see a movie and it's really terrible and you convince yourself you like it. May have happened with the Ang Lee Hulk.
I did that with No
It
Holds
happened-
Barred when
Yeah,
I was a kid.
exactly.
Yeah.
For me, that was Superman Returns. I was so excited that, Bryan Singer, who made these great X-Men movies, was going to be making a Superman movie, and that they were kind of picking up in the same world with the same DNA as the original Dick Donner films from the 70s and 80s. And I thought, this is genius. And what happened was something that at first I thought I liked it, and then I realized it is the most boring excuse for a superhero movie ever.
Whew. Those
Did you
are
guys
some
see that?
fighting
What
words.
did you think
Yeah.
about that? I mean...
No, I get what you're saying. Absolutely. I'm somebody who I'm easily pleased with movies. I
Hey,
think.
look...
But I get it. I get what you're saying.
You're not comparing Man of Steel to Superman Returns.
Well,
though.
I am as virtue of a way of a gateway. I just want to say, because we got that Superman movie that was supposed to relaunch everything, and it was a dud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they abandoned it, and then we
fell
had to
short.
wait. We had to wait another 4 years till we
DC's
got
had
a new
a
movie.
couple misses, and not that we're look. Luckily, we win because we see everything. We're going to see everything Marvel. We're going to see everything DC. This show's about DC specifically, but when it comes down to it, DC's got to be feeling a little bit of the pressure because Marvel has been destroying it. Granted, DC's awesome in television.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the money comes from the movies, and Marvel is just so like in a marathon. Marvel's on like mile 20, like 21 right now.
Right.
They're doing well
So-
recently, and again, we're not going to make it an East Coast West Coast thing. We don't
Yeah.
want Twitter hate war. Like
If
we
so,
were
we're Tupac.
fans. Yeah.
I want to talk about that for a second, though, just about the DC universe and if we are up to par with where we would like to be right now. I think that we are doing a great job. I think that we're right where we should be. I thought the slate was awesome. Overall, I really thought that they hit the nail on the head. And I think that Man of Steel was good enough for me to invest myself in this slate.
Okay. Now, as I was saying, when I first saw it, I saw a midnight show, and I was a little let down. And I think it was because it was really late and it was really long, and I thought some of the sequences went on too long. I had a big problem with how they killed Pa Kent. Because, again, I'm a big fan of those Christopher Reeve movies, and I always thought it was genius how, in that first Superman movie, his father dies from a heart attack, and there's nothing he could do with all the powers. And in this movie, his dad goes down from a tornado to save a dog.
Yeah, and that was so hard just to watch with the hand as he makes him stand there, and I'm like,
He could have gone in and out.
He just waves. Like, hey, I'll catch up with you.
I got this. Not coming home for dinner, son.
But that's
really sad.
That's why we see the earlier scenes where he tells him, yes, you do let them die when the bus goes down and everything happens.
I get it.
Especially when
Spoiler
Cal
alert.
is standing there and he could easily run and get the dog and come back.
That's the thing is he could go there, he could pop in and out, nobody would see it. I'm just saying that my point is, each time I see Man of Steel, I fall in love with it a little bit more. I think Zack Snyder's movies are gorgeous. I think Watchmen, whatever you think about that, gorgeous. 300, incredible movie. The flying, this is the first time we've seen a Superman that looks like the Superman for the comics. Remember, most people's knowledge of Superman, most people have seen it more in the movies and on TV and in cartoons than have actually read the books.
Well, of course, yeah.
So
I'm one of those too.
right.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you're going from the books, and I remember reading a limited edition series by the artist-writer John Byrne in 1986 called Man of Steel, which was basically a retelling of Superman's origin, and I think that this movie, Man of Steel, borrows a lot from that. It's
appropriately so.
exactly. It's telling the story of the character from the comics. And Henry Cavill, my goodness, does he not, he cuts a nice figure.
Yeah, he just looks like Superman. I mean, on
Yeah.
and off screen, he really does. He embodies him. I like that. They didn't need to go too far to cast him. It's
Johnny and
perfect.
I were more than a little uncomfortable appreciating the man's physique yesterday.
Yeah.
That's why you have to
Just
have a
like
woman
saying,
in the room.
why? How do we do it? What could we do, possibly?
And the thing is, he didn't show exactly a lot of personality, but Superman was never known for having a ton of personality.
He's not
So it's
making
kind
quips.
of a hard line to really, So I'm
Yeah,
not
he
gonna.
does. He does make that little quip after they finally kiss, and she says,
No, that's
"Oh,
true.
doesn't it go all downhill from here?"
He's like,
and he's
Sure.
like, "Oh, that's only with a human."
Only humans,
yeah,
baby.
I thought that he was cute.
Which
when he
really
needed
should
to
make a
be.
little slow and uncomfortable. Like, wait, I'm about to have sex with an alien? Okay.
Yeah.
on
Well, I
board.
mean, yeah, you could take that leap. I don't know if they had time to consummate the relationship at that time. They did just had time to steal a quick kiss while, a bunch of Kryptonians were destroying the planet.
Yeah.
But overall,
Bigger fish to fry.
I agree with Roxy. I think it's a great place to start the universe. I don't think that they knew exactly where they were going when they made that film. That's why we're going to have this kind of 3-year gap before the next film. But there's tons of Easter eggs in it. We get to see LexCorp. We know that's a thing. We get to see Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah. What was that? The Wayne Enterprises was a.
It was a satellite out in space.
That's it.
Right.
Yes.
And which kind of brings us into, the next movie, which is going to be Batman v Superman.
I gotta say, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way. I don't want to wait until 2016. Like
Absolutely.
Man of Steel was, what was it? It came out in
13.
sometime last year.
Yeah.
I would love to see Man of Steel. Like it's so
Well,
exciting.
You don't have to.
2016. Damn.
The great thing is in the DC universe, they have these things called boom tubes,
Yeah.
which I believe travel between time and space. So you can actually, I think is that the music we're hearing right now?
Yeah, this is the.
Okay, all right. Well, I was gonna get to that, but basically,
It
this
looks like we're here.
Yeah, it looks like we're here. So, this music you're hearing right now is not Hans Zimmer. This is who is just announced to be co-scoring Batman v Superman. And just give it a listen and tell me if it doesn't sound like badass Batman music.
So what is it? Junkie XL? Oh,
Yeah.
It's a
So we
great
just
name.
end?
I gave it away.
Yeah. So no, Junkie
Oh, I took
XL.
your punchline?
No, he's another composer.
Yeah.
He's a friend of Hans Zimmer who worked on the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy.
Great name.
And it is a great name. And so it just came out just yesterday, actually, that Hans Zimmer, who'd kind of been agonizing with this tough choice, he's like, I just scored 3 Batman movies. Now I do a Superman movie. Now I've got, obviously we're introducing Batman and Batman v Superman. So he's like, I already did my Batman theme. How am I going to retread over that and make it different and still give respect to the Nolan films, but make it clear that this is a separate universe? He goes, aha! And he brings in Junkie XL.
It's awesome when somebody can acknowledge that maybe they aren't the only person for the job and they need a little bit of help, which I think is what he did.
And then you call a guy named Junkie. And
Yeah,
you're all set.
Exactly. And the thing is, this guy has done music for 300 Rise of an Empire, which is a sequel that Zack Snyder produced, but to that great Zack Snyder directed film 300.
And that's what that came from that we just were
Yeah.
listening to, correct?
Yes, that was called Marathon from, definitely check that out. That piece is called Marathon from 300 Rise of an Empire. Listen to that, turn off the lights, and just imagine some badass Batman action. And I think it's going to be perfect. I love that he was like, you're going to take Batman, I'll take the other guy.
Yeah.
And the other guy he's, of course, referring to is Superman. who's going to be in Batman v Superman, but also it looks like we're going to be getting our first little look of Wonder Woman.
Which is amazing. Oh my God, am I excited to see. This is her first live action appearance on the big screen, so it's really, really exciting. It's really exciting.
And not to mention, it's not like they went with a celebrity. I mean, this woman has not done a ton of stuff, so I give DC a lot of credit.
Yeah, what do you think about that? Good call, bad call?
I know a lot of people they were upset about it, but to me, as someone who works in entertainment, I like people getting opportunities when they're not already famous, because that's how the ball keeps rolling. You got to give people opportunities. She must have crushed it in the auditions. I'm sure she's going to bulk up a little bit, get a trainer, get a nutritionist, whatever she has to do.
I mean,
to
she's
look like
dropped
Wonder
a
Woman.
gorgeous
She's beautiful,
as it
that
is right
too,
now, though. I think that it's too early to judge her. I don't know if she's kick-ass. I'm hoping she is.
I'm so glad you said that, Roxy, because in general, I like to be a little bit more optimistic and not judge things until they're there. I don't understand a lot of the precognitive hate that seems to spew from people sometimes.
You mean like Affleck got?
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember when Michael Keaton was cast as Batman, and I'm old enough to remember people, poo-pooing Mr. Mom being cast as Batman, and kind of
great.
iconic.
Yeah,
And for anyone who's
absolutely.
pissed off about Ben Affleck, see Val Kilmer and George Clooney and then bitch about it.
Well,
there's no
again,
reason to complain. Ben Affleck has been crushing it in every project he's done. Do you think he's not going to do everything possible to be amazing?
Don't you think Clooney or Affleck or Clooney or Kilmer could have been good Batman though? Do you really think it was their fault that those movies
Not
were bad?
necessarily, but I'm not saying. I just think Affleck fits the much better Batman character than either one of them.
I'm a little hesitant about Affleck, I do have
Really?
to say.
Yeah, tell me why.
He's somebody I can judge a little more. I can't judge Gal as much because I don't know. I haven't seen enough performances. Affleck, I've seen a million. I think he happens to be great. Especially, I just saw Gone Girl, obviously. It was just in the box office. I thought he was amazing in it. I think that he's really talented.
Yeah.
But something about him is that he's very subdued. He's just is kind of like... he's got this vibe to him. I guess Batman is too. He's kind of a
Batman's kinda
loner.
subdued, yeah.
he's
Batman's
kind of-
constantly conflicted. You got to remember that.
Absolutely. So I'm not thinking he can't do this. I just don't know if he was the choice that I would have made. I'm hoping he crushes it.
I gotta say, I was a huge fan of Affleck when he was in Good Will Hunting. He was that, that smart alecky, funny talking. He had some great comedy scenes, and I think that is the facade of Bruce Wayne. It's important to see that when he's playing the millionaire playboy side, that is the character, but he's a master of disguise. He's the world's greatest detective, and he plays that funny playboy well, but the real side is the stoic, dark, introverted Dark Knight, and I think he's going to be great. I really do.
And let's be honest, it's almost impossible to follow Christian Bale. So I don't know who they could have gotten. The only person that wouldn't have gotten criticized is if they just cast a kind of a newbie like Wonder Woman.
Well,
But-
and that's something that DC does a lot. Even like when Christopher Reeve was cast, nobody knew who he was. He came out of like Juilliard,
Right. It's not that I'm worried about him playing Batman, but you're talking about this playboy. I mean, Good Will Hunting, which happens to be my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, great.
It's a very different character.
Yeah.
What's he going to do? Take that Boston accent, all of those vibes?
Well, just the
like
charm.
such a-
I guess I mean like the charm when he walks into the office and he's like showing up there in Will Hunting's stead, and he's like, "You're my chief negotiator," and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just think that kind of like, that humor, that wise ass kind of mentality could be played to effect as a different kind of Bruce Wayne.
Totally. I will be pleasantly surprised isn't even the right term, but if he knocks it out of the park, I will be happy and I will eat my words.
I'm interested to see what Gal Gadot could do as Wonder Woman, because we don't know how good of an... I mean, I'm assuming she's a very good actress, otherwise I wouldn't have cast her. She's obviously a beauty queen. She was
in Date Night. She was in the... she had her famous line in Date Night, "We have sex with them."
Right.
With Steve Carell and Tina Fey.
And that's what got her cast.
I'm assuming she's not going to have an
I'm just
accent,
saying.
but I mean, who knows?
Who knows what kind of accents they have on the mascara where she's from, Or,
Yeah, absolutely.
Or on Paradise Island.
What about the role she's going to be playing, though? So I know we were just talking about this briefly off air. I wanted to bring it on screen for a second about the New 52, all the comic books that have been coming out, and how Wonder Woman is Superman's love interest in the comic books these days. Do we think that that's going to carry over to the screen, or do we think that there's no future between the characters because everybody's so invested in love?
What about a love triangle?
Maybe.
I think.
What about Batman slipping
I
in?
think Mr. Loquasto is right on the money with that because we
Yeah.
already saw the Lois Lane and Clark Kent character already got together in Man of Steel.
Yep.
They're not trying to do the BS with like, oh, I don't know who you are because of the glasses. He's working at the planet. She's helping him keep the cover. And then Wonder Woman's going to go. And I feel like that the reason that we have the New 52, much like how Marvel has redone a lot of their books, is to kind of bridge the gap between the books and the movies, to educate the younger audiences, to say, like, this is what Superman looks like here. That's why, you'll see no red panties on Superman here in the New 52 because Henry Cavill's Superman has no red panties. And I love the red panties, but I'm okay without the red panties.
Could
Could we save that
the
quote,
panties.
JT? Could you put that in as like a separate quote? I love the red panties, so we could use it in future episodes.
This is a source of inspiration. This is the most seminal comic of all time. It is my favorite comic book story of all time. I'm not the only person to feel that way. The Dark Knight Returns.
Right.
Zack Snyder has said that this is the source of a lot of the design and the intention. Obviously, there's a great conflict between Batman and Superman in this book. And there's even rumors of using the female Robin. Carrie Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there is room for a Robin in this series.
And who is the rumors? Who are they talking about as possibly as the female Robin?
Oh, I don't know.
Jenna Malone, right? Jenna Malone.
Is that who they said for
I believe
female Robin?
That's who they said.
Let me
Yeah,
check it
she's
out.
been on the set. She's been showing. She's got the hair, but she could be any role. But I mean,
Do you guys think we have
So you
room?
think we might
for-
see Robin and Batman versus Superman?
I would not put anything past this universe. I think there's going to be a lot of things going
That's
on.
a
there.
lot of dynamics in one movie. That's gonna be a 4-hour movie.
No, I mean, look, if it's done well, like just think about how many X-Men are in one movie. There's a lot of characters if you do it right. I mean,
Well, Aquaman's gonna show up in Batman versus Superman. They claim.
that's very
How? I have no idea, but I'm kind of into it.
In fact, there's been some talk that it was sort of like a retcon thing, and we were talking about this in Man of Steel last night when Clark gets blown off that oil rig and he's kind of just like hovering under the water, and you see the whales come in. Some people have said, "Oh yeah, that's Aquaman."
That's cool,
off camera
yeah.
saying, "Do, do, 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 do," and the white circles are
Yeah.
going out like that. All of the super friends, and he's kind of telling them, "Yo, go save that guy. I think he's cool." I don't know if that's true or not, but it could be another cool Easter egg, which I love.
It might be one of those things that we see the scene all over again, perhaps.
Yes. But yeah, another nice, cool flashback opportunity. One other thing I wanted to bring up about this. This movie marks the kind of separation between the Nolan verse, who served as an executive producer of Man of Steel, and his and Goyer, who has got the story credit and the script credit, and now they're moving on. And they said that Affleck's guy, the dude who won the Academy Award, Chris Terrio, actually did the rewrite on Batman v Superman. So now you brought in Affleck, you brought his Academy Award-winning script writer. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel confident. It makes me feel ready to go. I mean, people who are doubting it right now, I think that they have every right. We've had some flops, but
Well, I think anytime there's a rewrite on something that huge, I think people get a little bit nervous.
Well, it was before they started, though. It wasn't like they were 8 months into production. I mean, it was kind of like as they were. The feeling I got is that they brought in Terrio when they were starting to plan out this slate, because this has been planned for a long time, and they said this is where these movies are going to go. And I think that as much as I love Zack Snyder, I think if he doesn't have a great script to work with, then the movie could fall flat. I think that a lot of people point to Sucker Punch as a movie that looks awesome, but nobody knows what the heck's going on inside.
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
And it's actually a great movie without sound, which is not something you want to say about it.
Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, the plot hasn't been revealed for Batman vs Superman. We can kind of speculate, and feel free, Schmoville, to let us know too. What do you think the storyline is? Because the humans in Man of Steel are very concerned about this alien. They still don't trust him, even though he saved them from General Zod.
Right.
So what's the storyline going to be? Are they going to recruit Batman to kind of watch over Superman?
A lot of
I
destruction.
have a hard time figuring out how they're going to end up battling, and I love them both, so it's going to be really odd.
We're going to have to eventually get them on the same team. We know from history that they do fight, but we're going to have to get to some sort of understanding place.
Justice League, yeah.
Right,
They have a
absolutely.
different sort of philosophy about things. I think what's very likely is that there's a lot of destruction. We know two very prominent billionaires in the DC universe are Mr. Lex Luthor and Mr. Bruce Wayne. And there's probably so much destruction that their companies are going to have to get involved in building back Metropolis. And I think that Batman on his own is going to have some issues with controlling this alien. And I think Batman will have been doing a lot of research. And I think if there's any artifacts that were discovered, I think that he's going to have those in the Batcave and he's going to be retroactively fitting them. And I think that's how he comes up with his suit of armor.
So you're saying
and kryptonite.
So you're saying Batman will be the borderline heel kind of in the movie, perhaps.
Yeah.
Because what is he worried about the alien for? What exactly is he worried about Superman doing? He already got rid of Zod?
Well, no, I think he wants to know what this interloper from another world is capable of before, Superman is kind of callous in the first film. He's like, you can't control me.
Right.
Trust me, but you can't tell me what to do.
I think that this is one of those, the enemy of your enemy is your friend kind of situation. So we do have Lex Luthor, who has been cast as Jesse Eisenberg. I want to get your guys' opinion on that in a second, but if we do have another big bad, that's maybe when we join forces, even though they're going against each other, then they have to join together to go against somebody else and accept one another's help.
I think Lex Luthor is very well cast. I think the idea of taking a modern billionaire and modeling him after, like a young computer mogul, one that like Jesse Eisenberg has played before, I think is a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that's
Lex Luthor invents Facebook, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a total. It's all fits together. I think it's great, and I think Lex Luthor in the comics has not always been the mustache twirling villain. He's been the president of the United States. He's he's done a lot of good things, and they make him a more complex villain. I think the modern Lex Luthor is so much more interesting than just the classic, when we had the superpowers and he was wearing like the green suit and you squeeze his legs together and he just does this to punch Superman.
So do you almost feel like he's kind of like an anti-hero? Like people almost sympathize with him?
I think he's going to be a villain in the long run.
Right.
But I don't think for some time. I think he has his own agenda. And I think every villain is the hero of his own story. And I think that to get many billions of dollars, sometimes you have to break a few eggs.
It's called the 10 Seasons of Smallville.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
Good point. Now, how many? I know we have Wonder Woman. Supposedly Aquaman's making an appearance. Did they announce any other characters that are supposed to be in?
I believe we might see Ray Fisher in this film too. Probably pre-cyborg.
Really?
But when we say C, it's such a broad term because C could literally mean on the screen for 1 second.
He could be at Star Labs in a lab coat. There could be an explosion that happens, and he could go under the knife. We might not see him suit up.
It could be something so brief, like.
But there has been talk about Momoa, Ray Fisher, Gal Gadot, Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill.
Momoa being my favorite casting so far.
Eisenberg, yes, very exciting. We'll get to that when we talk to his his movie as well, which is coming right up. So, is there anything else we wanted to cover about Batman v Superman? I wanted to kind of just at least briefly talk about some of the other movies.
We got a lot of time. We can talk about that movie every week if we need to.
I know,
that's
and
we have a year and a half or ish. I'm not sure when the release date is.
So much time before anything.
That's
is
what terrifies me. So what the hell's gonna happen?
Well, no, because until
that's the best part.
Yeah, because until then it's all potentially great.
I know. I'm with you, though. I'm like a little kid, and I'm like, come on, let's go. But when it finally gets there, it's going to be that much sweeter because we waited for it.
Can I make fun of one line in
Please.
Man of Steel?
Oh, yeah.
The very, very end when Man of Steel flies away and the two military officers are there and the girl just giggles and says, I think it's kind of hot. Did we have to put that in there?
That was awesome.
Can we stop trying to be funny, DC?
Now, Johnny, as someone who just performed for the military, I want to ask you, did anybody say that about you when you were getting
they
off
are
stage?
so straight-laced.
Yeah.
Like, they laugh.
And she was a captain, so...
Yeah. They they enjoyed the show, but they're very straight-laced. And no one complimented me on my looks.
You
not
were gone
jealous,
by the
not
time
upset.
they did. They definitely complimented
Behavior
you.
not befitting an officer, perhaps?
I thought that it was...
Same.
I mean, it didn't
It was
look
what
good.
you were thinking, though, right?
It didn't look good
Granted,
for women
I thought
across the world. It didn't, but I just thought that it was a really
If she
good
didn't
moment.
say it, I would have.
Yeah.
Granted, I thought she was hot, but I'm allowed to say
totally.
that as a viewer.
All right, absolutely. I don't know. No, that was one other thing that maybe we should just touch on now because you said it. You said no jokes. A lot of people are worried about this mandate about no humor.
I like humor. Just do it right.
Exactly. I think that on the whole, I do want to see these DC movies be darker than Marvel movies. I think that if Marvel's being the Beatles, then I want to see the DC be the Rolling Stones right now.
Or the Monkeys. Either one.
Definitely don't want to
not
see
the
that
Monkeys.
happen. If
Sorry,
that
not
happens,
the
we have a
Monkeys.
major
My fault,
major
guys.
malfunction.
My fault. You don't even know the Monkeys. You're
Of
too
course,
young.
I love the Monkeys.
Okay.
That's why I was
All
just
right.
thinking.
You're the youngest one here. I just thought you might not know the
I'm
Monkeys.
a baby.
Yes, there will be humor. But it will be. I think that comment is more refers to the tone.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. That's completely
And
how
this
I
book
see
right
it.
here has plenty of humor in it. Okay, it's a tremendous satire about the future, about reality television, about following the crowd, about gang loyalty, and yet it's the darkest book I've ever read. So if you use this as your source material, Dark Knight Returns, Frank Miller, thank you so much. Then there's room for it to be dark and humorous.
I think
so
the kind of humor I think we can go for is maybe like Jack Nicholson style Joker, Like, he had some really funny moments.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you're like, oh, he's crazy.
I just think that they're sick and tired of people comparing them to Marvel, asking if they're going to use the humor, asking if they're going to do the post-credits scenes, all of those things. So I think that they're just like, we're not humor. That's not us. And they kind of just snap and say things like that. I don't think they mean no jokes allowed.
Right, and you know how people pick up on a single soundbite and then it goes out of proportion.
Absolutely.
Well, someone just made a statement about that, about almost like trashing Marvel for having those little teasers at the end of the.
It was a Christopher Nolan quote, I believe, from The Guardian, when I guess Zack Snyder had an idea for one, and reportedly. I wasn't there. I was making sausages, and Nolan said a real movie wouldn't do that.
Right. I mean, I just feel like
that's a little harsh. I don't know.
I feel like, again, though, when you hear something over and over for years, people drilling this into you. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do this? He's like, well, a real movie. I could see somebody saying that. I could see him saying that.
Let's also say, guys, I really don't think they knew exactly what the sequel was going to be at that point. So they really just didn't have the stinger. You know, they just didn't know what it was going to be. And I don't know if they will, and I don't really care. It doesn't really matter.
I mean, I think the constant prodding is probably maybe what got to him. Like, when people keep saying, like, hey, you know that thing that Marvel does at the end of every movie that makes everyone really, really excited for the next one? We don't need that.
Don't prod Christopher Nolan. Let's move on to the next film, because this, I honestly have to say, is a film that I am so incredibly excited about. And it's the biggest mystery to a lot of people. A lot of people are comparing it to Guardians of the Galaxy.
Obviously.
And that's Suicide Squad. Do you know Suicide Squad has been around since 1959?
I do now.
I mean... That's unbelievable to me, and nobody knows about it. I didn't even know that much about Suicide Squad.
But that's why Guardians, part of the reason that worked is people were like, who the hell are the Guardians of the Galaxy? And the movie was done so well, a lot of humor, but the casting was fantastic too.
This is one of the movies on the slate that I'm the most excited about.
Me too.
I think it's got some really, really strong potential here. I mean, I'm not that knowledgeable about Suicide Squad. From TV shows, coming over from Arrow, I've seen it a little bit. Just so you guys know, I'm a TV junkie, so I do watch all the DC shows. So I'm kind of aware, but I don't know as much as...
The team has had dozens of people. The one consistent character pretty much since the beginning has been Deadshot. Frank Lawton, I believe is his name, and he is like just a super great assassin, super accurate with guns, with any kind of projectile elements, a little bit of Hawkeye in there, a little bit of Bullseye in there if you're going to compare him to something in the Marvel universe, but he kind of predates both of them. He's got a code of honor, but he's still a villain. He's a mercenary. So... You know, he's a great anti-hero to lead this film. And there's been talk about some of the other characters, potentially seeing Harley Quinn for the first time, who was only really introduced in the Suicide Squad.
I love her.
At part of the New 52. Which just launched in 2011. Harley Quinn's a character that didn't even exist in the comics until the 1992 Batman the Animated Series created.
Right, yeah.
So this is a character that was so popular from that incredible animated series that it actually has made its way into the culture of the comics.
Yeah, she's awesome and so unique, and her whole thing with Joker.
What do you think about the rumored director, David Ayer?
Yeah, I think that's
He looks
great.
terrifying. He looks like he could be a member of the Suicide Squad.
He really, really does. I think that's awesome. Recently just saw Fury. I think that he's very talented. I could absolutely see him doing this. There's a lot of rumored talent too. Will Smith, Tom Hardy,
Ryan Gosling.
Hey, Margot Robbie.
Yeah.
What would she do though? Would she play Harley?
She could be Harley.
Or a love interest, maybe a love interest.
There's also another like cold freezing type character that was in the version that was pretty recently.
Who, not Captain Cold?
No, not Captain Cold, but something like that.
Who traditionally? So they're made up of traditionally.
It moves around a lot. Captain Boomerang has been on the series a lot. So most likely, if Gosling and Will Smith are cast, I would say Will Smith could be your Deadshot. Gosling could be your Boomerang.
Okay.
Or kind of even vice versa.
They have a lot to choose from, and that's the cool thing about it is they can keep us guessing on who's going to be in it. But obviously Will Smith, he has the frame to handle that kind of character. There's no doubt about that. And then, of course, see the picture of Harley right there, which is pretty dope.
Yeah,
And here's Captain Boomerang.
Right.
There's also rumors of the character Blockbuster being in this version of the Suicide Squad. Blockbuster is a character. His name is Mark Desmond. He's a guy that kind of experimented on himself. Also a character that's had many iterations over the years. But basically, he's going to be your bruiser. You need a strong man. He's not quite like Hulk level strength, but he's a tough guy.
What do you guys think about this being the second movie in the slate that they released?
I think it's genius.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's like Batman v Superman is pretty much going to be like your first Justice League movie. It's going to be huge.
Cool.
And I think that they do smart to kind of pull it back a little bit and let like these villains, these unsavory characters, people have been calling it like, what is it, like the Magnificent Seven or the...
I don't know what to give to
criminal,
you.
The criminal movie. Basically like
Ocean's 11?
No, not Ocean's 11.
I was reading this and I totally just get picked up late. Sorry.
But basically, these guys are going to be like mercenaries that are working for the government. Usually, they always work for Amanda Waller, who is a doctor at Belle Reve Prison.
Yeah.
Belle Reve is one of the many prisons in the DC universe. You got your Belle Reve, you got your Blackgate, you got your Arkham Asylum, actually.
Yeah.
And they are doing these missions for the government so that to commute their sentence or to get shortened sentences.
Right, so basically she goes to them and says, here's the project for you, go do this, and then you can get out of prison early.
Yeah.
Which we see on Arrow, which I'm loving that I'm able to tie all this together.
And in Gotham, actually, the TV show, they're introducing and talking a lot about Arkham Asylum and that kind of thing.
Yes,
And,
yeah. Well, it's really big on that. But there's also rumors that Jesse Eisenberg is going to be in this film as Lex Luthor, so... whether that will supplant the Waller character or if he's the kind of puppet master pulling the strings.
There's so many characters they could choose from, and that's why this is going to be so great. And you mentioned about being genius, being the second movie. You know, we got Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. That's basically saying, here we go.
Yeah.
And then Suicide Squad. I'm a huge fan of compilation films. I love having a team of people together.
Yes, totally.
And... no better than,
I also think what makes a character great in a film is building the legend of that character. You know, like Quentin Tarantino does it so well. When you watch Kill Bill, he spends so much time building up the legend of each of these enemies that when that character, when the bride fights them, you have this history. And it's badass. You saw that whole thing with like Lucy Liu's character, so it means something. Giving us this whole film is going to possibly do what the Marvel films have not done so great, and that's give so much service to the heroes that like the villains often feel like they're thrown in at the end. So just giving us a backstory and making these villains complex characters.
Which is so cool because we love to find out how do people get the way that they are.
Exactly.
And villains, you really want to know that because it's like, oh, you're such a mean person. How did you become like this?
Well,
and they have stories. They all have stories.
You want to be invested, and that's what I think was so great about Dark Knight, about how Two-Face became Two-Face. I thought that was fascinating. Just the way things happen to him, about how, you know, he was trying, and what's the one quote he had? If you live long enough, you'll become a villain. That's probably not the exact
to
quote.
See yourself become a villain.
Thank you.
Exactly.
It just, oh God, it just, to watch that and to watch the transformation.
That's probably my favorite comic book superhero film of all time. You just said it right there. I can't think of one better than The Dark Knight. I mean,
so good.
Epically rewatchable film. Like whenever it's on, I'm done. I can't go anywhere. Actually, the first two, Batman Begins or that one, they are so rewatchable to me.
I just rewatched Batman Begins yesterday, actually, right before I watched Man of Steel because I've been on a binge.
Don't you think that's what makes a great movie when it's like you don't even have to think about like I saw this already. You're just like,
The Dark Knight keeps you so uncomfortable the entire movie. Then of course you got Ledger, who's just legendary.
And honestly, I've been watching you guys tweet at us a lot, and you have been asking us to talk about the trilogy, Dark Knight Rises, and all of those.
And we absolutely will, because you know, here this is our first episode. We just kind of want to run down the slate, but like we said, we still have till 2016.
We haven't even done that. Like
this might be a two-parter, our first episode.
That's fine. I mean, you know, well, that's what we're gonna do every week. We're gonna hit all the news that has happened in the past week for you, and then we're just gonna ham it up and talk about what we think you guys want to talk about, and holler back at us, whether it's Twitter, whether it's YouTube. Try to be nice, but holler back at us. Let us know, and then we'll do it.
Say what you want about me, but you leave Sandy Gertler out of this because that woman's a saint. All right.
I love it. I love it.
Also, here was another rumor I had. There was Cara Delevingne, as possible Harley Quinn. That was another rumor. She's a British actress. Other well-known. They're using a lot of unknown people, and I love that.
Yeah.
That is the legend of DC. Like, sometimes when you use too big a star,
I agree.
It really it casts a shadow over the role. I think it's a good idea for Suicide Squad because they're less iconic roles.
Right.
So you
But
can
for
use
Wonder
bigger
Woman,
swords.
I'm so glad they didn't just find a famous chick. Like, I would have puked if they got Katherine Heigl or something like that.
Yeah.
Catherine
I feel the
Heigl.
same way.
Just picking a chick.
Every
you
time
know.
I go
I
out
know.
on a date, I'm the same thing. I'm like, oh, another famous chick. I'm like, I don't want your
She's not getting my
entourage.
sausages.
I don't want the
Okay.
paparazzi.
This is really exciting, though, guys. The
Talk to
standalone
me.
Wonder Woman movie. And
Okay, let's
Yeah.
move on. Let's talk about Wonder Woman
No,
a little bit.
It's awesome. I mean, obviously, I'm a little
Wonder
biased
Woman!
because I do have breasts, so that makes me a woman, I suppose.
She does.
Like, what kind of a
She's
comment
got
was
them.
that, Roxy? Anyway.
Wait a sec. Were you just trying to see if we were still paying attention right there?
I really don't
You're
know.
welcome, Schmoville. She's got breasts.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'm really
So
stoked
Wonder
for this.
Woman.
I'm really excited for this. We don't get enough all female. This movie
Right.
is just about Wonder Woman. It's her standalone, badass movie. I'm just excited. I think she looks
And-
great. I'm backing it up.
What I really dig is that it's probably going to be set in the 1920s.
Which is-
I love any movie that's set during the 20s, 30s,
let's
40s.
talk
I
about
love
that
Yeah.
particular element for a little bit because we know we're going to see her first in the modern day in Batman v Superman. You're making an interesting face.
I just
kind
don't-
of a side
Point
smirk.
taken.
Here's the thing. I love the 1920s also. I think that that's awesome. I just don't know why they're setting themselves up for complications right now. We're already going to be introduced to this character.
that's true.
And we're going to be introduced to her now.
There she is.
So
Well, what if Wonder Woman doesn't age?
it's got to be something like
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I'm assuming that they're not going to
not
have
gonna
her be
recap.
like 90 years old in Batman v Superman and they just only keep her young and hot
Right.
in the
Or they
Wonder
freeze
Woman.
her like at the end of Captain.
But the point is, they're allowed to do whatever they want. So why they would choose this to be what they do? We're already getting introduced, and
I
then
would
we're
like to
going
answer that.
back in time. I don't know.
I would like to answer that question. I think
I call on you.
it's a freaking great idea.
Okay, tell me
Because,
why. Sell me.
Again, slowing down the momentum. Let's take her back. Let's see how she became who she was.
Do you think that's what it's going to be?
Yep, I think you're going to put her in a world where you don't have Batman around, you don't have Superman. She gets to be the only superpowered person. I think we're going to see her on Paradise Island, the mascara, and we're going to see her interaction with a guy that stumbles onto the island, and she eventually goes out into the world. We see her leave her fellow warrior princess women, and how she deals with being this powerful, strong woman in that time, and then she gets the kick-ass. I was a huge fan of the Linda Carter series, so I mean,
Sure.
Wonder Woman's a great character.
Why do we have to go back all the way to the 20s, though? I mean, notoriously, is Wonder Woman a character that doesn't age?
No, she doesn't age. I think
So-
she ages very slow, much like Superman.
She's like
Okay.
a vampire.
But I think that aesthetically, I think it's a great choice. So all the
Yeah.
movies don't look the same. I just love. I
Period
love the
pieces.
first Captain America for those
Yeah.
reasons too. I think it was really ballsy to set the first Captain America knowing where it was going to go, and just saying like, all right, we're going to do one in the 20s, then we'll take her back and show her in the 40s and 50s, show
Right.
different adventures.
And in
But that's what
essence,
we're
that
gonna do.
could end up empowering her character even more. Not just giving her own, franchise or her own film. It could just show like, hey, she's got an amazing history,
They
just
did-
like everyone else does.
They talked about a sequel having it be placed during World War II era. And here's the thing. When I first read all of this, I was sitting there and I was so excited at the edge of my seat. Like, I love things like this. But when I started to think about it, it bothered me that we're getting that later. We're seeing her. We're investing ourselves in her.
Yeah.
And then we're going back to get the history. It's like a very, very long flashback that I don't know
But you don't know that we don't know that the Wonder Woman standalone movie totally takes place in the 20s.
That's
Right.
true.
It
That's
could
very
go back
true.
and forth. I mean, the main story could be in the 20s, and I'm
Calm
very
down.
Get your stuff together.
Don't tell me about Wonder Woman. The main story could take place in the 20s, but there could also be a story that is progressive and kind of leading us into what that next movie is going to be.
That's what I want to see. I want to see the jump back and forth. I
Right.
don't want to
Right.
just be stuck back there.
And if the sequel does take place during the World War II era, that has me a little bit concerned because who's the villain going to be? Another pseudo-Nazi organization that we've already seen in films? You know what I mean? So
That's a good point. I mean,
but we're getting ahead of ourselves, obviously.
Yeah, well, obviously there's
That's
a
what we
lot of
do here.
time, but
Yeah,
that's all we can do is speculate, and that's kind of the fun that we're having on this show. Is like nobody knows until we know.
Speaking about speculation, currently they're looking for a female director for this movie.
Yes,
which I
let's
love.
talk about that. How do you like that?
I think that it's awesome. At risk of sounding like Alicia Malone on our show, who's always about all the women. I think that's great. I think
Yeah.
that women understand women.
It's good that he's a female director.
I think it'd be
like
great.
it.
As long as it's the right female director. I don't just want any woman off the street because she's a woman. I just think there are a lot of great female directors, so why not
For some
use one
reason,
for
I'm
Wonder
just
Woman?
picturing like Penny Marshall trying to direct Wonder Woman right now. Just that
How's
would-
that
Yeah.
image?
Well, look, There have been a couple
And I'm not even
of-
going to try to do an
There
impression.
have been a couple of really strong names tossed out there so far. Obviously, Catherine Bigelow is at the top of everyone's left. Someone that directed, I forget her name, she directed a lot of the Game of Thrones. That was the very exciting one.
I was reading about that.
Also, the woman that was supposed, Patty Jenkins, is it? The woman that was supposed to direct Thor: The Dark World and kind of left that project. Here's the
all
thing.
women.
I just don't, unless it's really instrumental to the story that the director needs to know what it's like to be a woman, that I don't understand why you need to specifically look for a female director any more or less than a female director should direct Justice League.
I think it's simple.
They're
It's
not.
PR.
But it's not a female woman directing Justice League, though. It is a man. They already have booked a man,
Right,
and
but-
most people do. They have
and
a
that's
man
fine,
director.
but if it is PR, then I don't think that's how you choose your director for your film.
I don't think that if there was a man,
big film.
if there was a man who came up with a great pitch, an amazing pitch, and he was like, "This is what we're gonna do," I wouldn't say no, he shouldn't direct that because he's a man. But I think it's awesome that they're open to the possibility and seeking out a woman. There's
Sure.
plenty of women out there that could kick butt at this.
Sure.
She's going to have to know her stuff.
All
Of
I'm
course.
saying is that they should be open to it either way, and they shouldn't let it get out there that we're looking for a female director to direct our female-led film because we're so pro-women. Come see our movie because we love everyone, you know? I just don't think that that's the way to go. I think get the best director, make an incredible film.
Even if that's a woman.
We know, yes, even if it's a woman, it doesn't matter. Look, I think that we know that DC has a little bit of a publicity catch-up to play, right?
Yeah.
Marvel's got a lot of great press.
Yeah.
Marvel makes great news every time they make an announcement about films.
Well, for example, their announcement for the whole new spiel was so cool because they said, "Hey, fans, come on and hang out."
Right.
Where DC made their announcement really in front of what?
And
To
the
shareholders.
Yeah. So
Kevin
it's like-
Tsuchihara is not Kevin Feige, and like, who is the Kevin Feige for DC? Is it Jeff Johns? I don't know. He's the chief creative officer for DC. He has a hand in a lot of the television
shows,
and
movies,
the movies.
everything.
But I still don't think he's like the president like Feige. I feel like Feige is the guy who is the guy, and I don't know who that is at Warner DC, and you need that.
They need someone who has an ear to the streets, if I'm going to use that term. Because, I mean, Marvel seems to be on top of it. DC's got to do the same thing.
Listen, we just have a couple of minutes left, and I think this is going to be kind of a two-part episode, much like the Justice League movies. So let's try to
zing.
round it out and just talk a little bit about
Or our favorite
Justice
favorite
League.
moments.
The Justice League movie.
Okay.
I think let's just bring it home with the Justice League movie,
And
and then we'll move on until next week. And we'll
So
bring it
next
back.
week, Flash, Aquaman, Shazam, Justice League Part 2, Cyborg, Green
Got to do
Lantern.
our favorite DC moments in the first episode.
Well, I don't know if we have really a lot of time for that now.
Okay, let's talk about Justice League movie. Great. Awesome. We have no idea. We know nothing about
Well,
it. We know it's Zack Snyder.
we know
who's
Aquaman.
being cast. Yep. We've
Yeah.
got Ben Affleck.
Wonder
We've got
Woman.
MoMA, who I'm obsessed with. We've got Gal.
Momoa.
We've got Henry's coming on. Ray Fisher. Ezra Miller. You go, Ezra
We don't
Miller.
know. I mean, we don't know that Ray Fisher will be part of the team, probably, but we don't know. I'm
Yeah.
assuming he will be. But
We don't
and
know
we
who the
also
Green
have
Lantern
no
is.
idea who our Green Lantern will be. We'll talk about that next
So
week.
these characters are definitely confirmed to be in, because Justice League has had different reincarnations.
Well, these are the characters in the movies that are going to be happening, so we have to assume that it will be picked from here. There's no one to say that a more minor character couldn't also be part of the team.
No Martian
like an
Manhunter.
Adam, or I doubt a Martian Manhunter. We'll talk about Shazam next week, so that could be part of it.
I think if they have the actors, they're going to use them. I think most of them signed on for 4 films, so
Yeah.
probably they're going to use.
If Shazam's getting his own flick, he's probably going to show up in one of them, right?
Yeah. I would assume so, but I think we should save the Shazam talk for next week.
Shazam.
I think there's a lot of great reading to do. I will say one thing I wanted to recommend to people: if you want to know more about Suicide Squad, I just saw Assault on Arkham, the new DVD, the new animated film, and it is sick. You got Kevin Conroy doing the voice of Batman, who's done it since the 90s, but it's all about the Suicide Squad, and it is the most adult, graphic,
Really?
violent, sexually explicit DC film I've ever seen. There's a
get so
great
excited about it.
couple of
watching it.
topless scenes with Harley Quinn. If you ever wanted to see Harley Quinn get down, and not necessarily with her pudding,
In cartoon form?
in cartoon form.
I don't get that excited, Adam.
I'm
about
sorry. This is too excited for a grown man to be. We probably should be wrapping it up at that time. Guys,
That's a good time to
how
wrap
can we
up.
find everybody online? I got to catch my breath here.
Ladies first. Go ahead, Rox.
Guys, you can find me at Roxy Striar. More importantly, you can find us at DC Movie Movies SK. That's on Twitter. You can also find us where we live on the Schmoes Know podcast channel, also schmoesknow.com. Guys, we read everything. Tweet at us, comment on YouTube, go to iTunes.
Don't make us cry on YouTube, though.
Yeah.
Like, be nice.
Or do. I like to watch grown men cry. So where can we find you? Sorry, Johnny.
We're gonna talk about our favorite moments real quick.
Oh.
Okay.
Sure.
So let's do favorite moments,
So do I
then
get
we'll
to
come back.
replug myself?
Yeah, you'll
Replug yourself. Everyone loves you. You replug.
Okay, just checking.
In the booth, we have, like Superman's father, Jor-El, has given us the permission to talk about some of our favorite movies.
Jor-El Ellis, everyone. Jor Ellis, his name is, as a matter of fact.
Actually, I meant
No,
JTE.
JTE.
Jor-El.
well, he's standing there.
Yes.
Just
So
flip-flops.
Oh, it works
I
for
think
both of
Alice
them,
is more like Dark Side. So I just thought it would be cool to end with talking about a favorite DC film moment, not necessarily from Man of Steel. This could be it could be from the 1982 Wes Craven film Swamp Thing. It could be from the
you had to slip
Dick
that in there.
Donner's.
You had to.
Swamp Thing is, oh man, that was the scariest movie I watched as a kid. Well, what's a DC movie moment you'd like to recount?
Not just because I rewatched it yesterday, but I remember I was 13 years old when I first saw Batman Begins, and I just...
Wait, how old did you say you were when you
I was
first saw it?
13. I know, I'm
that
young.
movie
I'm
was
young.
in
I'm
2000.
5. It was in 2005.
You're even younger than I thought.
So anyway, I remember being 13. I remember watching it. I remember not knowing his story. And I remember watching his parents get murdered for the first time and just feeling like, holy crap, I'm in. And that sounds sick and twisted, but I didn't know why he ended up being the way he was. I knew who Batman was, but I didn't know anything about his history. And watching that for the first time, I just felt like this poor kid.
There's something called verisimilitude that they talk about a lot in films. It means similar to reality, similar to the truth. That's what Nolan did so well in those films.
Absolutely.
He said, if this were to happen, how would this be?
This wasn't a superhero part of the movie.
And it's
the
just,
whole thing was so realistic.
by making that so grounded, you need to see his motivation for this guy to become this psychopath.
Yeah.
Great moment.
Absolutely.
That's a great moment. I am going to do a moment that just stands out in my life. It's not a good one. This one brought me to tears. It scared me so bad as a kid. Superman 3. The entire film. Kidding. Now, the point in Superman 3, I forget how old I was when I saw it. I must have been maybe 4-ish, something like that. It's the scene where that woman gets drawn into the computer and all of a sudden she turns into a cyborg. That scared me so bad I had to hide behind my dad's lazy boy, crying. And I was like, "You're gonna save me, fuzzy chair!" And it was terrifying. So it just stands out in my life. And it's not a great moment, but that's just.
It's not a great movie, but there's some cool parts to that movie.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of them, and it scared the shit.
Yeah,
out of me.
and we'll talk some other time. We got to
Jesus,
talk about the Superman versus Clark Kent fight in the dump. I mean, don't tell me that's not an incredible scene. I don't care what you think.
Old drunk.
I'm gonna keep it in Superman because I'm feeling emotional right now. Seeing that always makes me cry. When the first Superman, Richard Donner Superman, when he's high school Clark, and he races home after like the football team is mean to him, and he like shows up and like they're driving the car, and then he just like runs ahead of them, and they're like, "How did you get here so fast?" And then his dad busts him showing off.
Yeah.
And it's just like that's what made him this great guy, you know, is because of that growing up on the farm in Kansas, and it was
He's a good dad.
You
that
can relate
movie,
to
man.
that being from Kansas.
No,
and all?
I can't at all being from Long Island, but I do feel like whatever morals I got are from these books, you know, like these books are my Bible. This is my moral compass, my moral code, and I'm not going to apologize about that. I'm not going to say that a Bible, a Torah, or a Quran is any better than, you know,
Just
anything
don't show
that teaches
this.
you how to be a good person.
Just don't show your parents the last minute. Just because you got, you're like, yeah, these comic books taught me how to be a person. Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Well, you know what? Who bought me the comics? Were my parents.
Oh, there
So
you go.
I'm Adam Gertler. You can find me online at Adam Gertler on Twitter.
Oh, at Jquasto, JQUASTO, or JLowComedy.com.
Thank you so much for bearing with us. This has been our first episode. Hopefully it wasn't too much of a train wreck. This is DC Movie News. We're the Schmoes Know family. See you next time, Schmoville.
From producers Christian Harloff, Mark Ellis, and the entire Schmoes Know Network crew, we would like to thank you for listening to DC Movie News. Special thanks to Kevin Undergaro and Maria Menounos, the author of Every Girl's Guide to Diet and Fitness, in stores now. To watch or listen to other episodes of DC Movie News or other episodes of shows on the Schmoes Know Network, go to the YouTube channel youtube.com/schmoesknowpodcast, or join the conversation and listen to all the episodes on schmoesknow.com or iTunes. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review DC Movie News. I'm the Pit Boss, and this has been a presentation of Schmoes Know.